this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, nice. 30 days in the hole. 30 days in the hole. Oh, yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome into yet another live show here, and we've got a special guest that is joining us right off the bat, so I am going to actually step aside here. I'm going to let Denny introduce the show and introduce our guest here tonight.
All right. Well, welcome to What the Hell Are You Smoking? And we got a special guest tonight, Chris Long from KSTP Channel 5, who has had 15 years covering the Minnesota Wild for KSTP. He's an Emmy Award winner, and he has a lot of knowledge, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say. And with that, let's bring Chris on board, and let's hear what you got to say.
Denny, thanks for having me. And what the heck we've been smoking is the name of the team. And I promise with me, it's nothing. I've just got a little throat situation. So you have to bear with me through this a little bit.
No problem. Really what I would like is your overall view of the Wild and what they're doing, where you see them going, just what you see. This isn't TV, so you can say what the hell you want.
Loosen my tie a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Here's the bummer if you're a Wild fan, and it's fair to be disappointed, and I'm sure Bill Guerin is too, but he can't come right out and say it. You've been sitting on this ticking clock with Ryan Suter and the Zach Parise money for 4 years.
Yep.
The clock finally goes off, and there just isn't the market I know they hoped for, or all Wild fans probably were rooting for, to go grab that big free agent or two. There's a couple out there, but the market feels like it's drying up. I was really big. I was beating the drum for Sam Bennett. That was the guy I'd go overpay for. Problem is, Florida is now going to overpay for him. There's no way they can let him leave after what he just did in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Brock Nelson would have been great. Well, so much for that. I don't know that the Wild, maybe they shocked me. I don't think they can get up into Mitch Marner land. Brock Besser's been the hot name for a year. He's still there, but there just aren't those earth-shaking, needle-moving free agents out there for them to go get. And I think the best thing they can do with their money right now would be to put it in the superstar they've already got, Kirill Kaprizov. Lock him up now, get that done, find out what you need to spend to make sure he's going to finish his career, or at least the meaningful part of it as a member of the Minnesota Wild, and then put some money into that free agent market, because I don't know that there's a home run that they can hit in free agency right now. Maybe a double, or what's Besser, a good hard triple. I just don't know. If you look at the list of guys that are out there on the free agent market, the guys that would be in, especially centers, there aren't that many. And you just hoped after 4 years there was going to be that big fish to catch. There just isn't.
You're absolutely right. Now, Marner's not going to be in Minnesota, period.
Right.
And now he's only looking for a 2-year deal at $14 million. And that's going to shut a lot of teams off, I think. What do you think, Seth?
I mean, that price tag just prices a lot of different teams out. $14 million a year is pretty much any team other than like the Ducks has to make moves to make that happen. So his list is very short. The Wild would be one of those teams. They would need to make some moves to get that money on their books. So, Chris, I'm right with you. It feels like it feels like free agency was kind of what we were hoping for, and it just, by the time you got to the store, the shelves were empty. Is really what it comes down to. So, I guess now we kind of look at the trade market, and that's where I think this Marco Rossi thing comes into play.
I agree with that. The other thing is next year, I don't have the list in front of me, but I know I read something that said next year there's a bunch of guys. So as Bill Guerin, you don't want to tell your fan base, just wait one more year. But if they can somehow keep some of their shells protected for next year, they maybe can fire that bullet next year. But even that's not a guarantee. So I agree with you. I think you make hay with re-signing Kaprizov and getting whatever you can if they truly have decided they're going to move Rossi. I saw an interview with Bill Guerin recently where he kind of backed off that a little bit, but I don't see how they possibly can convince him to re-sign and stay here.
I don't see it either. I think it's history. And I actually have a trade package with Anaheim that I'm going to bring up tonight's show. Where I'm move Rossi and Oberon for Troy Terry and McTavish. And it's an interesting one, but Anaheim has to spend money. And my trade package includes Bogle and Trennan. Move them so we got spot for the kids, and it helps give us enough money so we can re-sign Gus. But we'll get into that later.
You move. Okay, I was going to say I can wait. I was going to ask you. We can wait.
What I would like is your views on the goalie situation, the defense, then the offense. What do you see?
I worry that neither Philip Gustafsson, who has shown he can be very good, I don't know that he's great. What Jesper Wallstedt went through this year scares the heck out of me. He's still really young. There's still a lot of time to go, and he could still mature. But I wonder if he is going to fall short of where you would think a guy who was taken in the first round as a goalie would land.
Right.
Do you need a great goalie to win a Stanley Cup? No. You don't. I mean, Edmonton, Skinner was great at times, but certainly wasn't consistently great. Bobrovsky was pretty darn good. We had a heck of a team around him. I don't know that goalie is as important as it once was, especially with the level of defense that I think the Wild have, which will lead me to the next one. Defensively, I think that's the team strength. I love the blue line. I mean, Brody in favor, Middleton, Spurgeon. Boyum, I am buying every bit of Zeke Boyum stock you put in front of me. I think he's going to be terrific. He and Faber are going to be unbelievable together. I don't think they play together, but as the defensive cornerstones for years and years down the road. Jared Spurgeon, you hope he can stay healthy, squeeze a couple more years out of him. It makes me feel old that we're talking about Jared Spurgeon sort of entering his twilight when he looks like he's 14 still. I think defense is if you need to move something and shock the world to pick up a superstar center, you could rob the defense to do it because there's obviously plenty back there, but I would not. Forward.
I agree.
Forward, Kaprizov. I'm not going to insult anybody's intelligence by saying he's the key, obviously. Has the real Matt Boldy shown up? Is the Matt Boldy we saw last year, is that his level now? After he kind of up and back and up and back and now up, can he stay up? And is that who he's going to be? Eric Sinek, need him to stay healthy. The way he plays, that's always going to be a challenge. The Ryan Hartman conversation, I can have a smaller version of what I just said about Boldy about Ryan Hartman. Everybody had written him off, including the Wild, until he did what he did down the stretch and in the playoff series. What does that do? Does that make you feel like you need to keep him around? Matt Zuccarello, he's obviously not going to be what he was 3-4 years ago. I was shocked they brought Marcus Johansson back. I like the guy. I mean, they got him for nothing, but that's a roster spot. I mean, you're not going to send him to Iowa.
Yes.
There's a couple guys in Iowa I think I'd rather see on a nightly basis than JoJo. That with the way he's played, I don't know that they'd be worse. And there's upside, and maybe they wouldn't be. You know what he is. Anyway,
he's 11 goals a year.
Yeah. Freddie Gaudreau, who I hate talking anything bad about because he's such a wonderful human being. He's just been invisible. He's completely disappeared. The fact that he was higher up in the depth chart than Rossi was, I can't think of any rationale for that. Bill Guerin, I heard him saying, well, we wanted Rossi in between Trennan and who's he with in the play? Oh, Nyquist. Why? Why would you take a guy that did what Marco Rossi did, move him back and move Frederick Gaudreau up? So he's here for a while. I have the contracts up. I don't know off the top of my head, but Gaudreau is, what was that extension he got? Through 27, 28.
Yeah.
So you're stuck with him and Trennan through 27, 28. It's not great. So I'm very bullish on the defense. I'm cautiously optimistic but wary of the goaltending, and I'm still a little bit worried about how all the offensive pieces are going to fall into place. That was a very long answer to a short question. Go ahead.
Yeah, my sentiments exactly. Why they re-signed Johansson is beyond me. That's a kid spot right there. They're taking away.
Right.
But Hines doesn't like the kids. He won't play them. And that's the biggest problem with the Wild. And right now, every time you put a kid on a team, you're saving yourself $6 million. I am, because you don't know this, you haven't, this is your first time to show. I am putting together a team with 50 pointers. And I have figured out a few things. And here's
it's kind of what the Indiana Pacers did to get to the NBA Finals.
Yeah. Well, here's one of mine. And tell me if you've ever heard of this before. I'm going to offer a first-round pick from Utah, if we get it from Utah, which is the 4th overall, for Alex Tuck.
How are you getting that? Rossi?
Yeah, Rossi.
And Ogren?
No, just Rossi.
For the 4th
I
overall?
believe there's that's the offer on the table, and the Wild haven't taken it.
Fair.
But I would offer a first round no matter what for Alex Tuck. I'd give him a 6-year by 6, and I would give him $18 million down to sign instead of 8 years at 6 and draw it out. That saves us a lot of money. I haven't found where anybody's ever done that before, but I'm trying to be creative and save money and still get my 50, and he's a 70, 80 point player.
Tuck has 1 year left on his deal right now.
Yep. Okay. And Buffalo's not talking to him, and nobody's going after him, which I really love. Everybody's after Peterka. And then my other long shot is I'd really like to get Anders Lee. He's in the last year of his contract. He's 34 years old. He's a 50-point player yet, and he brings a net for a presence the Wild have never seen. He's actually ranked 5th in the NHL. And our best net front player is Eriksson Ek, and he's rated 15. That's the biggest.
And that's the thing with Lee. Which net front? He makes a difference in front of both nets, offensively and defensively.
Absolutely. He's a 50-point player. I don't care if he's 34 years old. I want him on my team now. So that's another of my trade packages. We could talk about this after the show's over. Seth, why don't you ask if anybody has any questions for Chris? This is a good time to do it.
Yeah, because I know Chris has a hard out here. So
I got about 5 minutes. I can stretch it a little bit.
Nathan wanted to know about now we all know that negotiations cannot begin for Kirill Kaprizov until July 1st. But up front, out in the open. Are you worried at all, Chris, about this getting done, a long-term deal with Kaprizov, or at this point, is it just a matter of how much money?
I think the latter. I think that they can't mess around with that. You can't, like I said, you're going to have to overpay for him just to make sure there's nobody else lurking in the shadows. The big question is, he said all the right things. I like it here. I like my teammates. Matt Zuccarello's his uncle. Keep those guys together for another year. He has said all the right things, but if his representatives say, let's get you to New York, let's get you to somewhere that we can really make you shine. Now, I hate saying it as a hockey guy. The NHL, it's not as big a deal as basketball, what market a guy's in. Unless you're in Edmonton and you're Connor McDavid and you're the best player on the planet and you do it in relative anonymity. Unless his representation is pushing for a move to a blitz team, I don't see any problem with it. I have not heard any news to answer the question. No, because there can't really be any news. But I think that if it's not announced on July 1st, it'll be announced shortly after.
I think so too.
Here's the thing on the glitz teams. Rangers would have to do a ton of what they've already done in order to fit him on the payroll. Los Angeles Kings, same thing. Florida physically can't unless they have 2 or 3 guys that are willing to go on long-term injured reserve.
That's the good one because he's got a place in Miami. Panthers were the one I was worried about this time last year. No concern.
Yeah, they absolutely cannot. Tampa Bay Lightning, their cap situation is similar. So a lot of those big teams are just in positions that they really can't unless this draws out. Now, if it draws out through the season and there is enough of a runway, then maybe teams start to get involved. But again, that's assuming that the Wild don't just full court press this, which I'm sure they're going to.
I think that's the case. Unless there is a arms folded refusal somehow by Kaprizov's camp, it'll get done.
We did have one.
Think so.
We did have one more question for you, Chris, and it was in regards to Marco Rossi. If you were the GM, would you re-sign him? Would you just get this done and just try to make amends?
Yeah, but I would have done it before I benched him. Not benched him, before I demoted him. They offered, the rumor is, and Mike Russo had this first, they offered him the 5x5 deal. And Rossi's people said, well, look at the comps. We're not signing that, rightfully. I don't think moving him to the fourth line was punitive for that, but moving him to the fourth line took a bridge deal completely off the table. There's no way Rossi and his representatives are going to say, all right, we'll sign a 1 year or 2 year prove it deal. We don't trust you to give us a chance to prove it. Now, the other side of that coin is if you get enough money, they have to play you. But I wouldn't sign that deal. I mean, he's going to get paid elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
I hate it because I like Rossi, and you're waiting for him to pop, and he finally popped.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess you could argue if you think his value is never going to be higher, you make that move. But man, you drafted him that high for a reason. You got to see it through, says me.
Yeah,
absolutely. Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We look forward to seeing you in future episodes, and you have a good night.
Boys, thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
All right, bye-bye. That went good.
Yeah, there you have it. Chris Long of KSTP joining us for the early portion of the show here to kind of get things going. Now, Denny, I know you've got the full agenda for the rest of the show, so let's roll through it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have 4 or 5 subjects. I'm going to talk about Edmonton, what I think they need to do. I'm going to talk about the tax situation, which is a serious thing, and NHL is trying to poo-poo it. I have a new trade offer with Anaheim, and this one's going to blow you away. So I'm going to go over all my trade deals and add Anaheim to my – and San Jose, too, by the way. And I just want to talk first and foremost about what the hell are you smoking? And I noticed, I'm moving up the ladder, and that's a good thing. But in my last show, I only had like 650 views, and that's because a lot of you were not notified because you're not subscribers. This is the first time in the history of Lockdown Wild. I'm telling you, if you want to listen to us and hear what I have to say and get my views, just subscribe. It don't cost you nothing. I mean, come on. And it really helps us. It's the last time I'm going to say it. And I hope it gets to the point where if you want to see me, you're going to have to subscribe. And that's really what I'm working on, because that's just the way it works. All right, moving on. Talking about the trade. Well, here's what I have. And this comes from John Robinson. You get a shout out for this because he opened my eyes to something that I hadn't got to the West Coast yet, but he brought it up and I looked at it. I really, really like it. And here we go. First off, we get Troy Terry, who's 27 years old. He's 6 feet, 190 pounds. And he's a 55-point player, so you can expect 50 points from him, okay? He could get 60. He could hit 65. It doesn't matter. You can expect 50 points, and those are the players I want on my team, period. And then we have Mason McTavish. He's also an RFA. He's 22 years old. He had 52 points last year with 22 goals and 30 assists. He's 6'1", 219 pounds. And after I got done reviewing what I could find from him, he really likes going to the greasy spots. He knows where to go on the ice. He sees the ice and the plays develop very well. And I know the one thing I can tell you, I used to watch his dad, Craig McTavish, play for the Boston Bruins for a long time. So I'm pretty sure his dad instilled how to make him an NHL player and do it the right way. And that's what I'm seeing from Mason. And I would absolutely love to have him on our team. And of course, to get him, I'm giving up a lot, but I think it's worth it. First Rossi, then Ogren, Spacek, Lambos, and Height, a third-round pick, and they take Trennan and Bogle to relieve us of 2 spots and some cap space so that we can have enough money to re-sign Gus. And that's the start of my rebuilding. Now, of course, I'm going to review my other trade packages. Number 1, Alex Tuch is number 1 on my list. His last year of his contract, Buffalo hasn't even talked to him. And he's one hell of a player. And this is the proposition I'm putting forth. And I've talked to several hockey people, and they've never heard of a deal like this before. I might be bringing up something new for the NHL. I would offer him a 6x6 and give him $18 million up front on his contract. Wouldn't you rather have $18 million up front and draw it out over 8, 10, 12 years, however they want to work the deal? I think it's an eye-opener. And they give them, I would give up a first-round pick and a player, period. Probably have to be 8 or up. I would gladly do it. And if it costs us Hartman, I would do that too. But Alex Tuch is at the top of my list. Then we have Anders Lee. And I looked up his analytics. He's ranked 5th in the NHL for front sports presence or front net presence. And our best is Eriksson Ek at 15th. Just think of what that brings to the Wild. I mean, you know, he's a local boy from Edina. He's built like a tree house. He's got legs like tree trunks. You can't move him. That's a beautiful thing to have. It's something that the Wild are lacking. He's a 50-point player. He's the captain for the Islanders. And this is the perfect time to get him because they're making a lot of moves up in the Islander league. I just think it would be a really good acquisition. You know, the way I'm building my team, and I know everybody's talking about the age. What did Marchand do? Think about that. Look at all the older players and how they excel in the playoffs. Kids don't do that. It's the old vets because they know what to do. And you need those kind of players. You got to have the kids, of course. And as I said before, every kid you play is saving you $5-6 million. And the Wild are very fortunate right now that we have Yurov, William, Jirasek, and Wallstead. All 4 of those could be Calder Cup contenders. That's never happened before. That's how talented this group is. You know, and from the very beginning, I was very high on Zeev, and you kind of killed me on that. I'm pretty sure your thoughts on that have changed, but honestly, Zeev Williams is going to be our best defenseman as soon as he's acclimated to the speed. That's how good he is. He's damn near as good as Brodin skating right now, and Brodin's one of the best in the NHL. There's very few who can touch Brodin. You know, he's smooth as silk out there, as I've told you before. There's, just ask Connor McDavid how good Brodin is. He shuts him down. What does that say? And for me to say this much about Zeev, you got to know, I'm so high on him. He's going to be a stud for us for years and years to come. You know, and everybody keeps talking about trading Spurgeon or Brodin or something. I think that's a mistake for this year, and the reason being is Zeev Williams and Jurasek need the guidance from Brodin and Spurgeon to be successful, so that they don't have to go through all the bullshit. It really, they are so good, and I know I got a lot of Spurgeon haters out there, but I have to tell you something. Spurgeon played 17 minutes a game for Canada in the big games. What does that tell you? And then all the accolades that he got, they couldn't believe how good he was. Well, I know how good he is. You know, he turns the play to the outside as good as anyone. He breaks up more 2-and-1 passes than anybody in the team. And he's a little undersized, but he makes up for it. His mobility is, even at his age right now, I love the guy. And with Brodin, he's the perfect fit for Zeev Williams because Williams can skate. And Brodin and Williams together, that's going to be a dangerous pair for any team looking to play against us. They're going to be very hard to stop. You know, I think Gus Bus and Wallstead they're going to be the best duo in the NHL. I also think that our defense is going one of the top 2 or 3 in the NHL. Even though they're rookies, that's how good they are. You know, and I got a lot of comments from SodaPod and Judd's show about Judd Brackett and his picks. Well, you're looking at his picks right now. And next week I'm doing a show on Judd Brackett and why I think he's the best. And I'm going to compare him from everybody from the start of the North Star organization till now. There's no comparison. There's no. I'm trying to think of how many number 1 busts we had. Who was Luke from Wisconsin? Oh, what was his name?
Cunnin.
Yes, Cunnin. He was our number 1 pick. Think about that for a second. And it gets worse than that. So we'll cover that next week. Any questions or comments on my trade package? Did I go over all of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think people are processing it. I haven't seen a ton in the way of the package itself. People got to digest it.
Sure. Rossi and Ogren, Spacek, Lambos, and Haig, a 3rd-round pick, and they take Trennan and Bogle. That's the package. And for San Jose, you know, the only player that I would have taken off their team was Logan Couture, and he retired because of some disease he's got. But we could still use San Jose to take players off, get their contracts, and give them a pick, which I would give up a 4th round gladly if Bogle and Trennan are still on the team, just to move them. San Jose has a lot of money to spend, and as Seth said, Bogle has really good analytics, and San Jose needs a little grit, and that's where Trennan comes in. It would be a good pickup. They get to play all the time, and it would save us about $5 million, $5.25 million. And that's enough money to re-sign Gus Bus. And that's how I'm looking at it. Because, my whole thought on building the Wild is with 50-point players. And you have to be creative in your deals in order to get them. And with this deal, I would have Anaheim taking half of Troy Terry's contract. He was at $7 million. And they'd have to eat $3.5 million for us to get him. But, they're getting 5 players and a pick. Something for them to look at, something for the Wild to think about. Because, the Wild, as good as they are, and all the people they have working, they might not have thought of this deal. But it's a very realistic deal. And when you look at what we're giving up, number one, I don't see things changing with Hines as the coach with the kids. I just don't. I don't know why, but Hines really has to change his thought thinking in order for the Wild to survive the cap with the money to get good players. Right now, we have to totally redo the 4th line. We got to do the 2nd line, and we'll have a Stanley Cup contender. I mean, we have 5-6 pieces in place, plus the kids. So we're not that far away. And with Tuck and Anders Lee, that would make us dangerous. And if we can't get those two, I talked about Dylan in Detroit. That's also a possibility, but it doesn't look like Detroit's interested in trading Dylan. But Troy Terry and McTavish in Anaheim are on the trade block, so let's get them. They're big, they're young, and they're good players. I mean, 50-point players are 50-point players. How can you go wrong? Any thoughts, Seth?
I mean, I can't argue with the logic. I'm awful at putting, as many listeners have told me, I'm awful at putting trade pieces together. So my best assets come at reacting to trades. I don't know, just at face value, I would think that Anaheim would be more interested in, and I know you got to throw one of them in to make the money work at least, but they may ask for more tangible top end prospects than some of those other guys. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out here.
You don't think Lambos and Spacek are top contenders?
I don't know that the Wild want to move Carson Lambos.
If they were going to play him, they would have played him.
Well, whose spot is he going to take?
Lambos?
Yeah.
Nobody. That's why I'm trading them. We're dealing from a position of strength. We have plenty of defense, and as long as Bogle and is on the team, that's the only shot that Lambos would have, because he's not going to take over for Jurasek. He's not taking over for William. So, it's just a matter of numbers. And, as long as he's been with, he deserves a chance. He'd be a starter in damn near any team in the NHL except for us.
I think he's going to get that chance because Jared Spurgeon and Jonas Brodin are not going to play forever. And he's only 22.
That's true. What about Spacek? He's already made it known he wants to get traded.
He can go because he has already said that he does not want to wait to be part of the long-term plan. I like Carson Lambos. I think the Wild are just being, the term I'm going to use is a little overly patient. But I think he is a perfect replacement, natural successor for Jared Spurgeon or Jonas Brodin. Now that may be down the line a little bit, but I think he's also going to get, he is right with assuming Juracek doesn't make the team out of camp. He's your first call out of Iowa.
Who's going to take Jurasek's place if he doesn't make it out of camp?
Bogo. Well, I'm just trying to offer my perspective on this whole thing. So let's say your D is
Bogo and
this.
who?
Let's say your D is this. Let's say your D is Spurgeon, Brodeen, Middleton, Faber, then Boyum, some combination of, I'm just going to say, let's say Juracek, and let's just put Bogo in as your seventh. Let's just put that in for this argument's sake. Assuming that's the case, Carson Lambos is your first call from Iowa if you suffer injury issues.
Which will happen.
Yeah. So I think even though it doesn't look like he has a spot at this moment, I still think there's good stuff there. And it would take, if I was a GM and somebody asked me about Carson Lambos, it'd have to be part of a really good package. Like you'd have to be getting something real tangible to pry him away from me.
I love Carson Lambos. I just don't. And the way you put it, yeah, you're right. Put in Bogle as number 7 and somebody gets hurt, you can go in. But I would definitely have Brodeen and Zeke William together.
Yeah.
You know, I have Spurgeon and Jurasek together. Because who better to watch out for Jurasek than Spurgeon? I mean, come on.
Yeah. And I was more so just doing that as a head count. Like the pairings will be figured out in camp.
Absolutely.
And
look how strong that is.
Yeah. And that's not even taking into account Declan Chisholm either.
Exactly. And I hope they sign him, but we'll see it happen. Because I had Declan Chisholm as my 7 starting right out.
But here's the other part of this. How many of those starting defensemen got hurt this year? All of them.
Yes, they did. Well, you know, my whole view on blocking shots is a whole lot different than what the Wild do. And I'm going back to 1980s hockey. And it worked quite well. The only time you block a shot is when you could slide down to block it. If you had to stick out your foot to block it, you didn't do it. And for obvious reason, you don't want broken toes and broken legs. It's ridiculous what they expect the defenseman to do today. Their job is to clear the lane for the goalie to see the shot, period. The goalie can see the shot from the blue line or up top, they're going to stop it. It's just that easy. Goalies are too good today not to stop shots like that. I mean, 1 out of 100 gets in maybe, or 2 out of 100, but it's, you know, very limited. And that's something I'm going to explain for the start of the season, what I'm looking at with the team and things that I would change. Because I changed a lot. I've already told you I would put our best players on the penalty kill, and for good reason, because if they stop a goal, they don't have to score a goal. And it was brought up to me, do you want them getting hurt? Well, I'm not about blocking shots from the top of the circle. All I want is to clear lanes for the goalie to see it. As far as for the power play, I would definitely start the power play from behind the net, as he used to call Gretzky's office. And I'm going to get much more in depth with that. I found a metallic board that will work. I have to wait to get paid to buy one, but I am getting it. And won't be long, and we'll be getting with the game within the game. And hopefully I can give you enough insight so that when you watch the hockey game, you go, oh, yeah, he saw that. So you understand the game a little better. I mean, most people just follow the puck. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there's so much more to the game. You got 10 players out there, and what they're doing, everyone has a purpose and a position. And it all depends on what's going on, and it's all relative because it changes over time. And it's just, you know, something I want to empower about everybody so that they can understand the game a little better. And hopefully I'll be able to do that soon. Any questions or comments?
We have a lot of people wondering about Greg Cronin.
Oh, okay. Well, this is my position on Greg Cronin, and I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but I think he's a good hire. And I'll tell you why. Let me get my sheet here on him. I did some research on him, and I was pretty impressed. With Colorado, he had a 601 winning percentage. Oh, let's see, where did I put it? It's still screwed up. I don't know where I put it. But he has, he's done really well in the AHL and with the sub teams. He's been coaching for over 30 years. And one of his main strengths is coaching up. And that's one thing that's sorely lacking down in Iowa. And that's why I think he's a good hire. I don't care if kids didn't like him in Anaheim. They still went up 21 points. You know, kids today are they're spoiled rotten. When I look at the game from 70s and 80s, even the 90s, players have no idea what it was like back then to today. Excuse me. And, you know, it is what it is. I don't know. I like Ogren Noah. After looking at statistics and 601 winning division, winning percentage, and he teaches up. Now he's not Don Granato, but I like him a whole lot more than I like Don McLean, I can tell you that. What do you think, Seth?
So in today's episode of Locked on Wild, I actually found some thoughts from one of the Ducks beat writers.
Uh-huh.
And here's what he had to say. He said, yeah, he's maybe not great as an NHL coach. His best position is either an AHL coach, an NHL assistant, or even like a college coach. Because where he really is good is being able to relate to players individually, like to be able to pick players individually and kind of build up their skills.
Uh-huh.
Does that not sound like exactly what the biggest issue with the Iowa Wild was for the last two seasons?
Yes. My sentiment exactly.
So,
that's why I think he's a good hire.
And I was talking with a few people on X today, and here is the scenario where I think it will work. Is if he is allowed to take the Iowa roster and say, okay, Carson Lambos, here's what we want you to do to get you to the NHL level. Kyle Masters, here's what we want you to do to get to the NHL level. Up and down the list. And, you know, more tailor it to each player individually, as opposed to what has been coming from St. Paul, which seems to be more of a blanket, like we need all of our players to do this. You can't blanket develop. You can't.
Nope.
So if Cronin is given the opportunity to do what he excels at, which is helping players develop on an individual basis, I think this is going to work pretty good. I think we will see noticeable results with this because, number one, above all else, the area in which Brett McLean lacked the most, Greg Cronin has the most of. He's been coaching for 35 years.
Yeah.
So all the stuff that kind of got lost in the shuffle is that's not going to be the case this year. From what I've told, he's got his system, his structure. So there will be order, there will be organization for this team, which is something that I think has been sorely lacking. over the last 2 years.
Absolutely. They had no guidance, like you said, and it really showed. And that's one of his strong points. So I see that as a win-win. In fact, I have to tell you, next week I'm going to have Jerry McDude on from Discord. Is that what it's called?
The Discord server, yeah.
Yeah. Who is just a knowledge of information. I mean, he knows his P's and Q's about Iowa and the whole substructure. And I'm going to have him on to give you his thoughts on Iowa, because, I told you I wanted to do a show on Iowa. I'm going to have him on too. Be a first. He's been on with Seth before. But I really like what he has to say, and I would like to. I'm going to bring him on the show and let him say his piece, because he's a wealth of information. And what's wrong with that? Not a thing. My show is all about interaction, and I love it when you guys give me questions and comments, because I will answer them all if they're pertinent to the hockey questions. Now, I know I get some people out there get a little overboard, and I understand that, but, all I'm doing is giving you my views and knowledge of the game. If you don't like it, well, then don't watch. I don't give a shit. I want people who want to learn, and that's just the way it is. I love doing this. Seth has changed my life. And this podcast is all I have. I have no friends left. Everybody's gone. I don't have anybody to talk about old times and tell lies and get drunk. That's all gone for me. This is all I have. So I do it 100% now. And yeah, my mind wanders a little bit, but I think we've got that solved now. It's no more paper rustling. That's by design. I always review my shows and try to make them better, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. And any more questions or comments?
Yeah, I want to get to this one from Britt first, because
Okay.
Britt asks, is it normal for a former NHL coach to go down to an AHL team? It does
Absolutely.
happen. Yeah, it does happen. Recent example was Dan Bylsma, who
Yep.
was coaching the Pittsburgh Penguins, won a Stanley Cup, coached down at the AHL level with Coachella Valley, then got promoted to Seattle Kraken head coach, got wrongfully terminated. Let's just call it what it is. He got wrongfully terminated by the Kraken because of their ineptitude. It is all about, there are two routes to go. There are two routes that you can go if you're a fired coach. Well, three. TV. You've seen, Bruce Boudreau has done it. Rick Bowness, Rick Tocchet. Recently, they've gone to the TV route. Number two is to be an NHL assistant coach. Mike Yeo may still be an NHL assistant coach. I'm not really sure. You be an assistant, and then you just wait until promotion comes around, or the AHL route, and you get in with an organization, and you hope that you're successful enough to get another NHL gig.
Which brings me up to this. For 2 years, I've been promoting Todd Nelson to come to the Wild, or the Wild taking him on. He was hired by the Pittsburgh Penguins as a coach. So at least he gets his chance. Yeah. Next question.
Let's go to this one. Brian wonders, do you think Iowa will make the playoffs next season under Cronin?
Yeah. I do.
Here's what I'm going to say. So the Wild have been at 72 points the last two seasons.
Yep.
I think they will be in the 80s. And honestly, whether or not they make the playoffs for me, if Cronin gets the team back to even respectable, and if we start to see some of these players take strides, then he's won in my book. Like that's more what I would like to see. Making the playoffs would be a bonus. But I more so just want to see him get this team turned in the right direction. And if he accomplishes that, then he's going to get a big thumbs up from me at the end of the season. As far as playoffs go, right now, without having seen any moves made or anything along those lines, I'm going to say that they miss, but I think it will be much closer than it has been the last 2 seasons.
I think Cronin gives us the 8 to 10 points better performance, and they make the playoffs. Just my opinion. Next.
Mike Yo is with Ottawa. My God. Why do we keep hiring this man?
Yeah. He's an old boys network.
Here's an interesting one from Schmitty. He says the Wild had the chance to get Bennett for a second rounder and a prospect.
No.
Do you think Calgary is regretting giving up on him too early? Like the Wild will feel about Rossi if they move him and he is putting up 80 points.
Absolutely. Calgary's crying. But they run a very different system up there, and they're very detailed, defensive orientated. And they're not running gun at all. And you look at, when they traded McTavish down to Florida for, what's his name? Who was their best player in Florida they traded for?
Huberdeau.
Huberdeau. He didn't come close to the numbers simply because of the style that Calgary employs. Big difference. It's not always greener on the other side of the tracks. And players are finding that out. Florida made a hell of a trade there. And it's not one you get often. But, you got to tip your hat to Florida. Have I talked taxes yet?
No.
Okay, let me get into taxes for a minute. Taxes are becoming a huge problem. We have 4 states in the NHL that have no income tax at all. Florida, Nevada, Tennessee, and Dallas in Texas. That gives them such a huge advantage because they can come to a player and say, listen, we're only going to give you 10, but it's like getting 14 here or here or here. The NHL has to do something about that. The only thing I can think of is any state that has no state income tax, they have to give at least a 25% across the board for all 4 states. And because it's only 4 teams right now, I think the owners are seriously looking at this because it's such a huge advantage. If you don't have state, just think if we didn't have 33% income tax in Minnesota, what that would do for us. Same thing with all teams. They got to do something about it because it's a very unfair advantage and it's hard to compete with that. Next question.
How about we go to let's go to this from Trevor. Thoughts on moving Jake Middleton?
For what? For who?
Well, that would certainly be the question. I would assume at this point for a little cap relief, a little roster flexibility. I don't think I'll answer this one first, Denny, if that's all right.
Okay, sure.
I think this would be more effective as a deadline deal if you're going to do it for a guy like Jake Middleton. Because for what he does, he's a shot blocker extraordinaire. 4.35 for a top 4 defenseman is nothing. That's pretty cheap for what he does.
Yep.
If you get to the point, and I think the reason that you would do this is because Juracek and Boyum both are like ready to rock in camp. They make the roster, they look fantastic, and you kind of look and you're like, we maybe need to free up a spot. I think it'd be more effective to move Middleton at the deadline if you're going to.
Okay. Well, my thoughts on it is I'm moving Bogle. I don't care what analytics say. He loses his man way too much for me. I'm glad he has good analytics because it just makes him easier to move. And for everybody who tells me the no trade clause, well, let me tell you, for all you new people who watch me, I don't believe in no trade clauses. If you don't want to be moved and you say no, you're doing Herbies for 2 hours a day and sitting on the bench until you say yes. And that's just the bottom line. And if you don't know what Herbies are, red line, blue line, red line, blue line. Yeah, it's not fun. And you'll be in excellent shape when you're done. And Herb Brooks developed it. And a lot of people also call it suicides, but it's for a reason. And any player says no for a trade to me, that's what they get. Plain and simple. Next question.
Speaking of big swings, like Calgary and Florida did, the Wild need to do the same in order to spark change and truly improve. Maybe a mid-season trade with something like Brodin, Ogren, and a first for Tage Thompson.
Are you kidding? You better add 3 pieces to it. At least 3 pieces. You know, AJ brought up the same thing on Judd's 3 pieces to get Tage. They wouldn't even answer the phone for that. Trust me, and I'm telling you. Eichel was a 4-piece trade, and he wasn't even playing. He had a bad neck. He had to have surgery. You're looking at 6 pieces in order to get Tage Thompson, and I doubt that gets it done. Very few people come along like Tage Thompson, and it costs a carload to get him.
The
3
trade
pieces
off.
ain't happening.
Peyton Krebs, Alex Tuck, a top 10 protected first-round pick, and a second-round pick in the 2023 NHL draft was the trade.
I don't think that happens at all. I just don't see it. Buffalo. There's a lot of talk in Buffalo on trades right now. And everybody's after Peterka, and I saw that the Wild have a trade offer in for Peterka with Rossi. That I know for sure. I don't know what it entails, but I do know that there's been dialogue between Buffalo and Minnesota regarding Rossi and Peterka. So that very well could happen. It all depends on what Minnesota has to give up. Because when Minnesota demoted Rossi and devalued him, they put themselves in this position, and that's their fault. That's on Billy. Go ahead.
I don't disagree. What is one thing that Buffalo does not have? A veteran defenseman.
Exactly.
I'm telling you, I think Jonas Brodin is a big enough piece that I don't think that trade is too far off.
For Tage Thompson, you would probably have to include Brodin.
You would. And
I'm not sure. Let's say you give Rossi, Ogren, Brodin, and then Lambos and Hunter Hay, plus a pick. I don't even know if that would turn the page for him. Really, I don't. It might. I mean, all you can do is ask, and all they can do is say yes or no, or they can give you an option on it, of which case now you have a deal working. That's how negotiations work. But I just don't see a Buffalo moving Tage because how are you going to replace him?
It depends. It depends on if he makes that move for them.
True. He hasn't
says-
said he hasn't wanted out,
Yeah. If he
like
says,
a lot of players have.
I'm not going to wait around for you guys to figure this out. I want out. Then at that point, you got to do damage control.
There you go. One last question.
Let's go. Oh, that's let's talk about Bill Zito for a second. Bill Zito is a smart GM. He hunted for teams giving up on their kids too early. Buffalo with Reinhardt, Calgary with Bennett, Chicago with Hagel. As Craig Button said, don't trade skill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to give your hats off to Florida, period. They've done it the right way. They're very good on evaluation of talent, and that's the most important thing. They see things in the players that the other teams' GMs didn't see, and that's why they're so good. I mean, they're 4 lines deep, period, and very hard to contend with them. I mean, just look what they did to Edmonton. Florida's 3rd line killed them. That's depth, and that's what I'm building for our team. Next week, I give you my final on the Minnesota Wild as I would like to see it with all the trades and all the good stuff. I'm going to give you my lineup, and we'll see how close we get to it. Because tell you what, Alex Tuck, Anders Lee, Craig McTavish, Troy Terry, they're on my list. So we'll see what happens. And with that, we bid you good night. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch the show. Seth and I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe so you know when the hell I'm coming on. I mean, it's ridiculous. 350 people didn't watch the show because they didn't know. That's terrible. Just subscribe. Really. It helps us. This is the first time I've ever asked for it, and I don't know if I ever will again, but it's ridiculous. With that, I say good night.